We are live. Welcome to Weather Center Live, folks, and I feel like it's deja vu all over again because we are once more talking about a major storm system set to impact the southeast and mid-Atlantic states, and once again, no one out there, minus a few reliable sources, is really putting a whole lot of emphasis into it. So we're going to talk that first and foremost, especially since there were so many individuals down there who were ravaged by the high levels of tornado activity we had, alongside the damaging convective winds we had. It was a pretty intense setup, and it's nice to be back in the comfort of the Weather Center because, let me tell you, it was a brutal 16-hour, 20-hour day out there on the road. So let me switch over to our satellite imagery. This is the one in question. This is the one that went swooping through and pummeled us here in the southeast and up the eastern seaboard to its entirety once the satellite image gets playing. This, I believe, is Winter Storm Finn is the name of it, and then we have a couple more coming up right behind it. So that's mainly what we're going to talk about today. And I posted on my YouTube earlier a community post, and I was a little snarky, I'll admit it. Just a little snarky, watching closely for these historical snow totals to continue. And it was 100% sarcasm because I'm still seeing folks mentioning 2-3 feet of snow. And still haven't seen it. We're 0-2 right now. We're 0-2. The storm system was mostly a bust. PM, what are you talking about? I got to disagree heavily. Are you kidding right now? For who? Who was it for a bust? There was no bust in that whatsoever. That was a major storm system. A major storm systems. The news station saying Central Florida not going to feel any severe weather of this one? No, not at all. We're still so modified down here, and we have way too much subtropical energy, really. This one's definitely going to be a Gulf Coast, Southeast United States sort of setup. Oh, yeah, and that's exactly what we were predicting, Alfalfa Bill Enjoyer. We were definitely thinking here on the Weather Center that we're going to see some very low, isolated instances of approaching a foot, maybe a little bit over that, in some very localized instances. But across the spectrum, the general average was between 3 to 6 inches, which is what we've been predicting here, and a number of other National Weather Service folks have been putting out their projections and their graphical pieces mentioning that we were going to see maybe 2 to 5 in certain locations, and then closer to the wraparound portion of the northern and western half of the low, we could get 3 to 6, maybe upwards of 8. And then finally, right up along the heaviest snow band, that heaviest snow corridors, where we could see 10 to 12 inches. So that's right on the money, honestly. That is a huge prediction right there, PM. That is a huge prediction, and I'm not sure I agree with that. There will be no severe weather anywhere Friday except for a few places. That is a very big accusation right there. And I would say, maybe not necessarily in my opinion, but I think that is a major bet. That's a major gamble for everybody in the Southeast who has been messaging me on Instagram and TikTok, who are really on edge with this next system. We'll take a look at it in a second, but our parameters right now are very, very close to much of the same, if not maybe just a little bit more. And I do think we're going to have to watch for some isolated convective activity here in Central Florida with that leftover tail. Nomad Cat 4, 15 times 2. We've had above 30, I think it was around 30 tornadoes reported and confirmed. As a matter of fact, we can go ahead and pull that up in just a moment. Let me get my Epic Pen up. I thought my Epic Pen had been loading, but I had to scramble last second because I totally realized that my camera was not plugged in. But let's see here. So this is what just came through. This was the big event, the first big one. Still moving through, dumping lots of rain along the eastern coastline up into the northeast. A lot of the folks who saw snow with our first winter storm, it's now completely washed away, if not almost entirely sludge at this point from what I've been seeing. This system really packed a huge punch, and you can still that it is still pulling a lot of polar air. No Arctic air yet. The Arctic air has not started yet. Not started yet. Everyone hyped the last system and no tornadoes for, wow, I can't believe what I'm reading right now. I don't know if you're trolling us or not, but there was no hype. There was no hype with this system. The hype was in the northeast. The hype was in the Midwest, where we were predicting 30 to 40 inches of snow, 50 inches of snow. That's hype. That's sensationalism. There was no hype with this southeast storm. No hype from Texas all the way up into the mid-Atlantic states, not one little bit. My concern was we could see a resurgence based on our model data, and the only area that was a bust was literally right here. Localized little area. And it was for the better, as a matter of fact, too. It was for the better. In fact, we busted in a negative sense along the West Coast, and we busted in a positive sense for Central Florida. And there were still a lot of folks who reported very strong winds in Central Florida with this system. And there was another bout of enhanced tornadic activity on the East Coast. Along the West Coast, though, even MacDill Air Force Base had a tornado within 5 nautical miles. I'm not too sure if they actually put it in one of their OBS, but I don't know. As a matter of fact, let's get in there right now. We already know what's coming. It's going to be pretty much, in essence, a repeat. Wow, I cannot type, whatever. I'm not going to epicpen.com right now. Let's go ahead and do a little bit of a sanity check. How's everybody doing tonight, though? We haven't said hello to anybody yet, and I do apologize for that. How's everyone doing? Wow, we had storm reports today. We had convection today. That's a little rare. We must have had some cold core stuff. Had some wind reports in Georgia, right on the Georgia-Florida border there. Yesterday, 18 confirmed tornadoes, 434 wind reports, and only 1 hail report. So thankfully, only hail. 1 instance of hail, at least for yesterday. So that's 18 total tornado reports, 434 high wind damage reports, and then on the 8th we had 10 tornado reports, 57 wind reports, and then 23 large hail reports. So all in all, we have a total of 28 total tornadoes. 28 total tornadoes. And over 500 wind reports and about just below 24 hail reports. Nomad Cat 4, very good. Glad to see you. Zenful, thank you very, very much for joining us. Just a little bit. We definitely saw some in South Carolina. I see some red blips in South and North Carolina, which is good. They definitely nailed the enhanced threats a little bit more, which is kind of what we were thinking. We were kind of thinking that. If you guys remember, we mentioned that on the channel we have the possibility of getting some tornadoes through Alabama, Georgia, and then into the southern half of South Carolina. You guys remember distinctly, I had mentioned, I think they're being a little gratuitous with going all the way up into North Carolina. But it goes to show that regardless, we still had severe thunderstorms. So, yeah, exactly. These are reports. These are reports. These are confirmed reports. These are observed reports. These are confirmed official, as in 18 reports, but were there 18 tornadoes? Well, yeah, what is going on in the chat right now? Now I'm starting to get a little on the aggressive side. These are all observed, confirmed, spotted, physically spotted tornadoes. The preliminary data is only confirmed and put on these charts after they've been physically verified. These are verified tornadic events. These are not hearsay. This is not all only radar indicated. These are actual observed on the ground events. This is essentially the same thing we used to do with our JET server when I was in Air Force weather. We would put in the official criteria, we'd issue it, and then we'd mark it verified, and then we would actually call over to our sites, or we would look at the observations, we'd look for the storm reports, and then we would fully verify it for our internal stats. So I don't know we're getting real rambunctious in the chat right now, very rambunctious, and I'm not liking it because I've been talking to a lot of people out there who were telling me that they saw flooding. They saw damage. They lost power. I spoke to families who had their children huddled in the bathroom, in their bathtub, because they were under a tornado warning, that lost property. We had a fatality in one of the tornadoes. Hopefully it was just the one, dare I say that. This was a real event. So I really don't want to hear bust. I don't want to hear it was a bust. Where I was standing outside, it was a bust, and I said it out loud, but not for the rest of the situation. 6 total tornadoes. That's all right. I'm going to agree to disagree, but regardless, looking at this, regardless, severe thunderstorm criteria blew up. And I wish I could welcome in all the folks out there who saw some pretty hellacious activity yesterday into this chat so we can all, but I digress. It was a bust, guys. It was a bust. We're going to be singing a different tune when it comes time for the real deal. I guess the real deal needs to be, now I'm getting way too passionate. Right now. Next time I'll tell my family, my friends, I need to put myself in the path of an incoming tornado and stand there and wait for it to be right on top of me and then politely say to the tornado and shake hands with it, thank you for joining the live stream. This is Weather Center Nazario live with Mr. EF1 Tornado right here. Do you have anything to say as we welcome you into the live stream for folks tonight? Anything you want to say to your family and friends? Anyone you want to shout out tonight? I'm getting carried away now. Anyways... yeah, I'm getting carried away. I apologize. All right. Anyways, this is what we're dealing with going forward. They've marked Alabama through most of central Georgia. So if you lived in the northern periphery of Georgia and you didn't really see too much, it's a possibility you could definitely get something this time. And the Carolinas, once again, are bullseyed because we have a very similar warm conveyor that's going to be popping off and driving a lot of our warmer air out of the south once again. I think the big limiting factor for Central Florida is we had a lot of mid to high cloud that left the environment a little more untapped, unavailable, if you will. I was looking at some of the SKU-T indices, and there was still a little bit of subsidence out there that probably left us a little more on the stable side, and that's why further inland we didn't get as much enhancement as we were initially thinking. But then those storms ramped up along the east coast once they hit the Gulf Stream. And I was telling Devil Charger, who joins us for the live streams, that I'm really thinking of maybe going down to southeast Florida one of these days because it almost seems like clockwork. Once those storms get close enough to that edge of the peninsula and we start to see the Gulf Stream really bring in some of that onshore, convective available energy, the Cape, it almost seems like clockwork. We always get something down there. There was a confirmed tornado report down there, if I'm not mistaken, or at least a tornado-warned storm. I'm not too sure if they confirmed it just yet. We'll have to look at that at a later time. I know that Devil Charger, as a matter of fact, I'm not even sure if he's in here tonight. I haven't seen his username pop up, but he tagged me in a video, as a matter of fact, about him trying to intercept that while the storm was blowing through. Very nice radar signature. But let's get into this. Let's start looking at stuff. So this is our 12Z European model. And you can see that's what I'm a little concerned about right there, guys. If you're looking over Florida, and I'm glad that the European model is bringing this up. This is kind of the main reason why I wanted to do a live stream tonight. Because I'll tell you guys the truth, especially with the way I'm feeling right this second. I didn't want to do a live stream. I really didn't. I didn't want to do any video. Not today. I was exhausted from yesterday driving around. Regardless of if it was a bust, if anything happened, if nothing happened, I was beaten down. I was driving in the dangerous weather, hydroplaning, battling gusty winds on and off the freeway, dodging lightning in the woods, getting chased by 2 tornado-warned storms that were almost right over top of me. And I really didn't want to come on here, but there's 2 different things that I wanted to talk about. And the first thing is right here. If you guys look, this is 06Z tomorrow night. This is not Friday just yet. It says 6Z Friday, but this is about the midnight time frame. Notice what's happening over Florida. And before we get into that next major system that's already setting itself up in the Central Plains over, Missouri and parts of Arkansas, let's go over to some of our high-res data. This is what I was looking at earlier, and I posted it on my Instagram. I didn't get to share it on my TikTok, but take a look at what our FV3 Meso model is looking at. This is not as impressive, but it looks like we're trying to get a line of thunderstorms through Central Florida. And with that subtropical jet still down there, we might still need to watch these. Not thinking tornadoes or anything like that, but we definitely need to watch out for some overnight winds, maybe some lightning. because these definitely do look like very convective, possibly low rotation thunderstorms on this model. At 0Z, it looked a little bit more worrisome, I'll admit. 12 Zulu looks like it's backed off, but at 0Z, if you guys watch, I noticed this morning when I first sat down with my first cup of coffee, and if you look, these definitely look a little bit more concerning, especially right there. Look at that. Some stuff going through central Florida and the northern Florida, especially off the coastline. They look like they're very high sheared. They're trying to go almost teardrop bean shape. So that was a little concerning. I wanted to blast that out to you guys. So we might have to activate chase mode one more time, even as early as tomorrow overnight, very early morning hours until about sunrise. Let me see. I haven't looked at the HRRR all day today. I've been busy once again, doing my swearing and whatnot. Yeah, it looks like Oh, yeah, look at that. There we go. It looks like HRRR is giving us a chance at seeing some stuff firing as we wake up in the morning on Friday. It could be a busy day for us. I wonder if SPC is tracking this at all, because that looks very sheared. Let's do a little bit of interrogating with this together. I don't think we're going to have very impressive CAPE values. I really don't think we're going to have a whole lot of CAPE with this. At least we shouldn't. Okay, actually, we're getting a lot. That's even more than we had out of the last system. But of course, we won't know until about the day of, even though I know we have about 24 hours to go. CAPE actually looks a little bit more impressive this time around. I wonder why they're only going for the severe threat up in the southeast or in the actual southeastern states as opposed to Peninsula of Florida. We have a lot of available CAPE down there according to the HRRR that usually doesn't over forecast it too much. Look at that. There's on the west coast just to the north of Tampa about 2,000 joules per kilogram of surface-based CAPE. Let's see what the FV3 is calling for in terms of our buoyancy. Surface CAPE for overnight tomorrow starting right about here. Yeah, nothing too impressive, mainly just off the coast. And then during the daytime, it kind of tries to come up a little bit. Let's see. Let's go back to the HRRR real quick. I want to see what they're calling for supercell parameters. I haven't looked at all of this, so this is brand new for me as well, guys. Let's see. So supercell parameter for overnight doesn't really do a whole lot. So overnight systems might not be anything besides mainly just some rain and wind makers. Supercell composite is really going up again, though. I really wonder if we're going to see this adjusted again, guys, at the last second. I really think we're going to have to watch and see if they adjust it at the last second again. Florida might not be out of the woods on this one because I'm not liking what I'm seeing on our HRRR stuff. We may just wake up in the morning and see something different. Yes, this is for Friday, and I'm also looking at stuff for earlier than that as we go overnight Thursday into Friday. I definitely don't think it's going to be severe, but I do think we might have to watch out for some stray overnight winds, especially if it is still cool out there. We're going to have drier mid-level lapse rates, drier conditions in the mid to upper levels that could help produce a little bit more of some buoyant down rushes as they come down and they rain themselves out. But anyways, let's get back to the main event. So this is what we're tracking next time. If you look, we're going to have this big old frontal system kicking off, doing almost the exact same thing as our last low-pressure system. And it looks like we're going to see it all the way across the southeast with some very, very, very good temperature discontinuity. And now for those of you out there who are watching other sources, who watch other YouTube sources, who follow other weather sources, this time I'm 100% behind whoever out there wants to say Arctic. Because with the last two systems, I've been seeing a lot of folks twisting their thumbnails, twisting their titles, twisting their posts, and saying Arctic blast or historical Arctic blast. You guys can take my statement with a grain of salt. It's entirely up to you, but that is 100% fallacy. That is 100% inaccurate. That is 100% just to get you guys to click on the video, get them a like, get them a sub, get them more revenue. And I'm not even saying that just to be rude or nasty. It's true. It's 100%. There was no Arctic air with this last system. This one here looks like it's going to carry Arctic air because if you look and you remember that crash course I gave you guys, the 510 line is your usual area to find, is your good rule of thumb to find your Arctic air, and the 510 line is coming down through the Central Plains on this chart at 06Z on Saturday, so this is very late Friday night. This is an Arctic system. This is an Arctic supported system. Our 528 line is getting pulled in along the backside of it. So these are your very cold temperatures. This has been trending on this model for a while. I don't know why everybody was premature in saying that we've been having Arctic air this entire time. That is not true. Now we're starting to see the Arctic air come down. Not only with this system, but it looks like it's going to stay there. And the next low pressure system is going to bring down even more of it. And it looks like, there we go, right there. Just a little bit of it. And it's going to be very interesting to see what these things do, because the latest model data has not only something coming out of the Gulf of Mexico this time for us in the southeast, but it also has the following system developing off the eastern coastline, more reminiscent of what we typically see with a Hatteras low. This is more of a classic wintertime setup. We haven't seen very many Hatteras low setups recently where they form off the Cape Hatteras coastline, maybe just a little bit to the north, closer to Maryland, Delaware, Virginia, just to the south of, I think that's Massachusetts. I still have to brush up on my geography, guys. I do apologize if I butcher state names, but this is a little more of a textbook low development region, or a source region, is what we call it, a low regime. This, if you look, there's our 504 line and going below 500 thickness values over the Great Lakes. So this is going to be some very, very, very cold, frigid temperatures. These are your real, actual Arctic values. So this one here is what I'm watching for a threat for severe. And then this one, it looks like the models are a little wishy-washy on this. They're kind of making me look a little silly right now, because I know the 12Z Canadian model is on board with what they're seeing here on the Euro as well. But again, 0Z looked a little bit more menacing last night. Here's our first one looking a lot more aggressive. And then here's the second one right here looking a little bit more aggressive as well. And then the third one looked a little bit more put together as well here, but that one has also trended much further to the east, which is definitely going to change exactly what happens with our snow path. I know a lot of folks are very adamant about where's the snow. If we do continue to see this trend for my folks up in the north and the northeast, if we continue to see our next two low pressure systems, not the first one or the second one that's giving us our chance for severe down here in the southeast, that is going to change exactly where we get our snow. We're going to see a transition from out of the northern plains, out of the Midwest and the Great Lakes, back to where, Winter Storm Ember dropped a bunch of snow. It'll start finally moving a little bit further to the east, and some folks who have been struggling with getting some snowfall, places like Virginia, Kentucky, Pennsylvania, further up to the northeast, we'll see a return of that snowfall. And I do believe you can see it very well here on your precip type and mean sea level pressure. So here, this is going to be a very similar setup to what we saw last time. Still expecting the same totals. Definitely looking like we're going to have more snow, upwards of a foot, maybe 13, 14 inches in some very localized areas. I'm talking small clusters in individual counties. That's how micro scale I'm getting. And then if you watch, as we get these next systems, if they take that more easterly path, see how your snowfall changes? This puts a lot of snow into North Carolina, Virginia. Oh gosh, excuse me. Carmen, if you're still watching, I don't have my water on me and I do apologize. This puts a lot more snowfall and more of a nor'easter impact to the northeast United States. And the same thing with that next system. See how it forms up and we see our snowfall transition much further to the east. And we actually have more lake effect snow happening from Michigan, parts of Illinois, further into the Midwest. So we're going to have to watch this closely, because this is going to change exactly who gets what down the road. We could finally start seeing that snowfall get out of the Midwest and start to push a little bit further to the east, where a lot of folks are hoping that they finally stop seeing these rains, these flooding conditions, because there were a lot of floods alongside the high wind warnings that we saw for the mid-Atlantic and along the southeast. There was a lot of flooding that went on. Between 3 to 5 inches of rain fell, and that's exactly what the next setup is going to do. And we already have a lot of saturation down there with very little time to rebound from it. And you guys can see right here, just nothing but massive amounts of rainfall. So that's not going to be good. If you didn't get flooding in your area last time, we're probably going to see flooding this time to a little bit more of a greater extent. In fact, we can switch on over to WPC and kind of look at what they're thinking for their quantitative precip forecast, just to do a sanity check. So here's day 3. There's day 2. So actually, they're not going for very much for very much rain. That's interesting. They might want to modify this chart a little bit, because I don't agree with this. They're calling for rain where we're supposed to see snow. That's very interesting. Let's go to excessive rain. Maybe excessive rain will show us a little bit of a different story. There we go. So that looks a little bit more reasonable. I'm not too sure why it is that their QPF is thinking that we're not going to have as much rainfall down here unless this is taking all versions of precip into the equation, which from what I recall, that's only a rainfall thing and not necessarily a snowfall, but I could be wrong. I haven't really been leaning too heavily on weather prediction. I've been looking at mainly just their surface mock charts here. And there you go. Look at that. They're thinking even severe as far west as Louisiana and parts in Arkansas. And then there's all your very heavy rainfall through 12Z on Friday into Saturday. Same exact setup almost to the T with this system. Almost same exact setup, very tight pressure gradient, secondary cold push back behind it. I wonder why they're analyzing for that. That's interesting. Sometimes their charts can be a little wishy-washy, so we'll have to monitor that very closely. I'm really starting to wonder if they're going to extend that severe threat just a little bit more, though. Just a little bit more, because we're looking at the exact same setup, and maybe the reason why they're not including Central Florida this time is mainly because of what just happened. We saw a tornado in Fort Lauderdale a number of days ago now. It's been for a while. They amped up their projections, covered a lot of Central Florida, and then unfortunately, unfortunately, double-edged for them, better for us, we only saw some tornadic activity on the far western coastline in Tampa Bay. So maybe that's why they're going again on the conservative side, and I'm wondering very much so if they really need to stop being conservative and just go based off of what they're looking at, based off of what they're seeing. Because that's going to be a very, very key indicator as to what exactly pans out. I mean, if you look at the low-level jet on this next system, very, very similar. Maybe not as strong, but still fairly strong, fairly robust. We're going to have a very good warm sector with it. If I were to look at our theta E or our thickness values for that area, you're going to see that we do still have quite a bit of warm air advection that's expected to occur across much of the southeast and particularly the mid-Atlantic region. CABE looks very impressive from all of our models, though, across the board. Far greater than what we saw at all with this last system. Far greater, especially over Florida and especially back up over the Panhandle. Let's go over to Tropical Tidbits really fast, and I apologize if this live stream seems a little all over the place. I'm more or less interrogating everything with you guys because I had a very, very big day today. Very busy day, as a matter of fact. For those of you who don't follow me on Instagram or anything else outside of YouTube, today was my big swear-in ceremony. Today I'm officially back in the United States military, and it felt really good when the commissioned officer who swore me in said, "Welcome back," and shook my hand. It felt kind of like the introduction or the cliffhanger ending to a season finale of a show. So that's kind of why it is that I wasn't really paying close attention to the weather all day. I was low-key nervous about all that. So let's see what the 18Z NAM is thinking for down here. Yes, the 18Z NAM keeps a lot of our highest values up over the Panhandle again. We're definitely going to have to watch. I definitely think we'll have to see exactly what flares up along the leading edge of this frontal boundary. Maybe the models are thinking that we're not going to have as much juice or as much moisture left over. That's tough. Let's see. Let's go over to... Oh, we don't have our... See the dew point? No, dew point's looking much of the same, so dew point's going to be there. Let's go over to the European model one more time. I just want to look at their relative humidity model. Okay, so that could possibly be it. Not as much moisture available this time. That last system is going to push a lot of dry air down there, and dry air is good to an extent. And just looking at this very quickly, there's not a whole lot of moisture to work with, not until you get much closer to the low pressure system itself. Those residual showers along the stationary boundary, that's going to get some northward flow with it. You got some of that gravitational attraction, I guess you could call it, towards this low as that warm sector develops. Not going to do a whole lot to saturate our atmosphere, and I bet you 10-1 if we look at our skew T soundings for Central Florida, we're going to see a lot more of drier conditions down closer to the surface. This is going to be, when is this? This is 18Z Friday morning? Or no, this is, what time is this? Where's the valid time on it? This is 18Z January 10th. So yeah, this is 18Z January 12th. So this is around lunchtime on January 12th. This doesn't look that bad. This definitely does not look that bad in terms of convection. Stable, unstable. That's a conditionally unstable environment for sure. And we have a lot of really good low-level warming that's indicated on this forecast right here. It's hard for you guys to see, but there is a very, very steep lapse rate in the first immediate, maybe 200 to 300 feet of the environment. And our ML cape is 664, most unstable cape 787, and there is no cap. No cap. Surface-based sin, none. So this is an uncapped environment. Not a lot of rotation out there, though. Just a lot of wind shear. Nothing really rotating. Sheared off to the right, off to the east. Precipitable water looks pretty decent. But let's go forward in time closer to the main event. I bet you it'll start to switch up then. So let's see. This is getting into when things are likely to start going down. All right. I'm at a loss. I'm not going to lie to you guys. Maybe not a tornado potential, but there definitely seems like a potential for thunderstorms. That's a lot of ML cape and most unstable cape. D cape looks pretty sporty as well. And the shear is actually a little bit more optimal than with that extreme shear we saw last time. We're about 50 knots of total shear from the mid to upper levels. Still got a lot of good precipitable water values. I don't know. We'll definitely have to see what happens. None of the models are lining up with the enhanced severe weather risk and the significant severe weather risk for Friday. I do agree, which is a little bizarre. Denzel, to answer your question, because this is the area that everyone has been focusing on as the bust. Everywhere else saw really bad severe weather, and I'm looking at Central Florida because they don't have us highlighted one way or another, and it's very interesting that they didn't blanket everybody since the storm is going to do exactly the same thing as the last one did. Exactly. If we don't look at the fine details or anything like that, it's doing exactly the same thing. If I go back in time and I show you the broad spectrum, and before we start losing viewers, I'm not going to focus just on Florida. Wow, we're like, something must be in the air tonight. But if I go back in time, we'll go way back to, let's see, we'll go to 12Z on Sunday before the first one. You see that? 12Z Sunday, 18Z Wednesday. 12Z Sunday, literally almost in the exact same spot. So that's why I'm wondering why this time they're not highlighting the exact same areas as last time as opposed to this time. Exactly the same setup, almost mint. The 570 line actually surges a lot more further to the north. The 570 line's getting into Georgia and South Carolina, and I don't think we saw it happen that last time with this last system. Yeah, no, the 570 line is, no, actually it's doing exactly the same thing as it did last time. So these storms are one of a kind, or two of a kind, I should say. Very, very interesting what we have going on here. Let me see what our temperature advection looks like. Same warm sector. Same exact warm sector, although it looks like there's going to be a bit more of enhancement out further to the west, nearest to that greatest temperature discontinuity, and then lots of warm air surging up the east coast once again. It's exactly the same thing. Let's go over to the experts and see what they're saying. See if maybe they do mention why it is we're not going to have anything over Florida, but everybody else is going to see much of the same with a bit more expansion into our folks here. Because if you remember, for our SIG severe event last time, we had here highlighted, and then we had here highlighted. Now they're going all through here instead, so I'm really wondering if they're going to highlight the fine details here. Let's see. Associated strengthening of deep layer wind fields is forecast to include a developing swath of 90 to 120 southwesterly flow of 500 millibars. Makes sense. In the 850 to 700s, 50 to 90 southwesterly flow is generally forecast to overspread the inland advancing warm sector. That makes sense. That's your warm conveyor. Let me just do a Control F and see. Florida's not even in the discussion. Although storm modes remain uncertain, there is concern that this environment may support and maintain discrete supercell development with a risk for strong tornadoes. Otherwise, the evolution of at least a small organized cluster might be possible, accompanied by potential for very strong and damaging convective winds. So we'll have to see. We're definitely going to be in an environment where we can see lots and lots and lots of convective winds, just like we did last time. And I know a few other folks out there are already saying that this is going to be another tornado outbreak. I even saw just before coming on the live stream that Reed Timmer himself, once again, is saying Dixie Alley is under the gun for a second tornado outbreak within a few days. And he's talking about this system here. Maybe we'll see what we have tomorrow morning. Because right now we're still at day 3. This is the 72-hour mark. And I know they tend to broad brush everything. So that's probably what we're looking at here. They're still in their probabilistic kind of phase. Once we get into the days 1 and 2, kind of like what we saw last time, we'll get a bit more of, a nailed down version and discussion of exactly what's going to happen, kind of like this, where they go into each individual regions with their discussion. So we'll see. We'll see what we wake up to tomorrow. I personally think we have very similar dynamics. The Cape Ball, however, does look a little bit more impressive than what we saw last time, so that's just a little concerning. It's a little interesting as well. K-index looks much of the same all the way through. Let's see. Are we missing something in the upper levels? Is that possibly what it is across the southeast? Okay, yeah, so it looks like our main area of diffluence and that leading edge of the trough and everything is going to be up here. So we're not going to see as much enhancement down here. So that makes sense. It might strictly be an upper level influence in this case as to why we're not going to see as much coverage as we did last time. Because last time that system troughed way into the south, encountered the subtropical jet, and all of our diffluent flow was right in through here, which could also explain why we really didn't get much of anything in Central Florida. Because we had a lot of that diffluent flow quickly move on downstream. So right in through here, this looks to be your best shot at where you could possibly see some severe weather. Just on this static image alone. That's all I'm going off of. Just the upper level dynamics and the contour gradient pattern. That could be where you see a large majority of your severe weather. And don't take that as fact or as my forecast. I'm just saying, looking at this chart by itself, looking at our shortwave trough, our upper level, or I should say our upward vertical velocities in the upper levels, and where our air just kind of spreads out when you get real high into the atmosphere. Let's see, what else was I going to look at? Oh, yeah, for snow totals. Let's go back up to snow totals. Let's start looking at the snowfall before we close out the live stream here very soon. Snow totals, it's going to be exactly the same once again. Here's your 24-hour snowfall. I like to use 24-hour snowfall because it's going to show us exactly what to expect in each individual storm. You never want to trust, pardon me, my nose is itching, my allergies are trying to come in, I'm sorry. You never want to trust any source out there who gives you the weather and uses just a total, just a this, just a that. That's not right. That's inaccurate. That's a fallacy. That's a disservice to you guys. You want to look at your different increments. When I was in Air Force weather, I used to love looking at 3-hour, 6-hour, 24-hour, and then total. In this case, for 24-hour snowfall with this next event, it looks like we're going to see our greatest accumulation right up in the northeast corner of Illinois. I forget what state that is. Is that Iowa, guys? Please correct me. I'm telling you, I'm struggling with my geography. I was a Western CONUS forecaster. I'm familiar with the southeast. I'm terrible with the northeast and the Midwest. I'm serious. Please, somebody fact check me on that. But it looks like Michigan, parts of, is that Wisconsin? And now I'm just drawing a blank. Illinois are going to see our greatest values once again approaching that 12 to 14 inch threshold in very localized areas. If we zoom on in that general area and go up to the Midwest, where's my Midwest AOY? I need North Central. Or we can go, here we go. The U.S. Corn Belt is what the AOY is called on here. So here you go. This is the 24-hour snow totals, and there's your small area right in through here. It looks like max expected right in that one county predicted by the Euro could be somewhere between 12 to 14 inches. So again, if you're looking out for, these videos, because I'm seeing it again. With every single system that comes through, every single one of them is suddenly historical. I don't get it. I thought history is something that we're going to be reading about in our textbooks 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now. You know, Jacqueline, hi there. I do see you're waving. Thank you for joining us. I don't know why so many people are saying historical. I don't understand why. This is not historical. We've definitely seen 8, 10, 12 inches of snow. And I'll admit that's kind of another reason why I've been very hesitant to get back on YouTube, because I already know my videos are going to get squashed. We're going to get squashed, and because I'm not talking record-breaking, historical, read about this in the history books when your children are in elementary school many, many days, many, many years from now. This is not historical. This is not anything dramatic. The blizzard conditions are going to be far worse than the actual snowfall itself. It's the combination of all these different elements. My guess is low probability for tornadoes. Cannot be 100% certain. Tornadoes can be rogue. That's the central U.S. So this is technically the Midwest, at least. I mean, we even call it the Midwest in what I have, what I work, the Great Lakes Midwest region. My weather meteorologist said 10% chance of tornadoes. Samasta Pasta, where are you at again? I feel like this will be much more of a wind threat more than a tornado threat. Yeah, depending on exactly what happens. We'll have to see what happens. You know. But yeah. There's your snow totals. Very, very same thing. This next system won't be historic, and snowfall totals won't be historic. Yeah, no, none of these have been already. None of them have. They've been intense. They've definitely been bigger than everything we've seen throughout fall and winter, but they're not historical. And I'm focusing on other social media platforms where I'm not going to be overshadowed by literally clickbait. That's literally what it is. And some folks out there watching this can sit there and try to tell me that, you're just sad because you're losing views. It's not even about that. It's just annoying. Like, if you guys want to read false information more than taking in the accuracy, I just won't do anything then. That's fine. Go absorb what it is. And when you're disappointed time and time and time again, by all means, again, that's why I went as far as to post that sarcastic remark on my YouTube community post today, because it's like, y'all out here praying for snow and you're going to the wrong sources to get the wrong information. And that's why every single time you come at us at a later date and say, you're always wrong about the snow forecast. And it's like, I don't claim that. I don't claim those forecasts. All we're doing is read models. That's it. And it's very discouraging. I thought it was only going to stay to the hurricane season, but I guess winter storms as well. Michael, I saw your question. Do I think it'll be a crazy 2004 hurricane? 2004. That answers your question. Do I think it's going to be a crazy 24 hurricane season? I do. I definitely do. Still watching El Nino. Some folks are talking about the temps, and I am not that well versed in my temperatures, so I'm not going to say yes or no about historical temps, but they're definitely talking about historical snow and historical storms. Like, they're not solely talking about temperatures. I wouldn't be going on this tirade if if I wasn't onto something else. Could possibly be the temperatures as well. We'll have to see. When people refer misinformation over accuracy, it is very discouraging to everyone who does weather and who is a journalist. Yeah, exactly. Because, I could very well, you guys have seen my personality. I can come on here and very easily look at these colors and just bold-faced lie to you. That's going to be all the way up to 50 inches of snow, guys. Look out. That lake right there is going to completely freeze over. We need to get prepared, just like my favorite thing. And I roast the living daylights out of these people when I'm not on YouTube or on social media. And I will admit this to you guys. We have a lot of people in here right now, and I'll openly admit I roast the living daylights out of these people. Where every single system, no matter what it is, it could be a blip on the radar, it can be a major winter storm like the one that just went through. This just got worse. It's still getting worse. Ladies and gentlemen, it's getting worse. It could literally be clear skies like today. Nothing's happening. But it's still getting worse. The clear skies are getting worse. This just got even worse. By the way, have I told you how this got what, come on. Do you think SPC is going off of 0 to 3 kilometer Cape? They could be. They definitely could be. Tomorrow, hopefully, when everything settles down, we can take a little bit of a closer look at our model data. I keep thinking tomorrow is already Friday. I'm in my mind thinking right now that we're not going to have enough time to look and investigate at things, but we are. I keep forgetting today is only Wednesday. Let's go ahead and backpedal a little bit. We'll go back to the whole United States and see what the snow totals are projected for those next couple of systems. So this is going to be the next one that comes through over the weekend. It looks like very, very small area of the U.S. is really going to be heavily impacted by it. According to our current projections, it looks like upwards of a feet of snow or a foot of snow could happen predominantly in Michigan. Michigan's going to get the brunt of this one, it looks like. And then shortly thereafter that, we're going to transition back to the Northeast. And even these snow totals are not that crazy. See, and this is exactly what I'm talking about. What is this? I just opened up my YouTube about an hour and a half before doing this, this live stream, and I saw all these folks with their thumbnails saying that this is like historical snowfall, historical blizzards, 2 to 4 feet of snow, and I don't see anything like that. And again, if we're looking at totals over X amount of days, then absolutely you're slowly but surely gonna, it's like if you don't wash your hair, you don't brush your teeth, slowly but surely you're gonna get funk collecting days upon days upon days. You know what I'm saying? Like, whereas if you only, if you go a day without brushing your teeth, for example, just to make it easy for you guys to understand, if you spend 24 hours without brushing your teeth, you're only going to get so much gunk in there. If you spend a whole week, you're going to have way more stuff to clear out of there. Same thing with some of the models these folks are using. If they're using just the total accumulation like this, watch the difference. Okay, we just used the 24-hour snowfall rates. Now let's look at snowfall. Look at that. See that? See how much different that looks? Record-breaking snowfall. Look at these values of upwards of 50 inches of snow. Now, see? There it is. If you use just your total accumulation, that's why you're inflating your numbers for the folks who don't know how to interpret these models. This is a totally different image than what I just showed you guys because the info here sticks. This is total accumulation for 156 hours. And if I go all the way to the end of the chart, look at how much technical snow has across the western United States and over the eastern United States. Where Michigan is, it looks like Michigan is getting upwards of 32 inches of snow at this point on the 20th of January. 20th of January. It looks like 32 inches of snow. Now, you're trying to tell me that that's 32 inches of snow in one storm? No. I mean, that if anything, I feel more bad for you guys out there who don't know how to interpret and really recognize and analyze not only continuity between models, but also just really recognize and understand what it is you're reading. And I don't say that in a bad way. That's what gives us, folks like me, a job. We're here to communicate it to the best of our ability and give you the reliable information. If you have folks out here just reading the model and saying, whoa, look at the Sierra Nevadas, we got to put out the heavy snow warning, that's 50 inches of snow, then obviously that's an injustice to you guys. It's almost disrespectful. They're almost doing it because they know you can't call them out and argue their logic because they're going to talk around you. They're going to pull for my fitness. I'm not even going to say that. I'm not going to go there and start bringing fitness enthusiasts and fitness influencers in here. But that's what I'm thinking. This next system here is going to be a very close repeat. And in fact, it looks like the narrow corridor of where we could see our heaviest snowfall is going to occur predominantly over Michigan. Everybody else is going to see a big difference in how much snowfall we get. And this is another one that I don't see anybody using. And I'm glad we have almost 200 people in here so we can delineate against all the inaccurate information out there to the reputable stuff. And for those of you just joining, if you're brand spanking new to the live stream, I'm not here preaching on my soapbox, trying to make it sound like I'm the best thing in the weather community. I'm the best channel in the world. I'm the most knowledgeable. None of that. But I know enough to give you guys what you need to move forward safely through these winter storms and these severe weather events, as do many other people. But I'm also seeing on the other end of the spectrum a lot of folks who don't. Either they don't know how, or they're truly just trying to fluff their numbers now because their channels have been dead since the tropics died. And that's kind of sad. It's very sad, and I'm catching them. I'm catching them in the act. They're using old model data, they're using the wrong charts, and they're reading the wrong values to you guys. Now, what we have right here is called our snow depth. And what that means is how much more snow we're going to have pile on to what's already out there. Forecasted. Obviously, the model's not going to know how much snow is literally on the ground, but you kind of get the idea. How much is actually going to stick? No one really talks about that either. How much of the snow is sticking? And so if you look at this next event, you can see that we have still maybe somewhere around a foot of snow in very localized instances where that last system came through, plus whatever snow you may have had. Now, as we go 48 hours into the future, look at how we start to see that snow depth increase, but not much. Not much. So the models are thinking we could see maybe 2 to 4 inches of sticking snow with more happening in the storm that's not going to stick around for very long. So if you look, even the snow depth amounts is not too crazy outside of the extreme higher Rocky Mountains. If you guys look, the models do a great job of showing all this stuff here sticking where it's the highest point. Look at where we have the Cascade Mountain Range, how we're all the way up to 100 inches of snow. Bet you 10 to 1 someone out there is going to read that and say, oh my God, we could get 100 inches of snow in the Pac Northwest. Yeah, if you're all the way 10,000 feet in the air. You know, you got to communicate these things to people. You got to communicate this kind of stuff to the people. So if you look at the Midwest and especially the Northeast, and this is 150 hours out into the future, we're really not going to get a whole lot of sticking snow. We're going to see a lot of it in these storms, don't get me wrong, but in terms of how much sticks around, we're not going to see historical values, let's put it that way. And then last but not least, since it was a question that was brought up, yes, we'll go ahead and take a look at our current ENSO readings because I'm noticing that they are changing up a little bit. We're starting to see little dips and plummets in our 3-4 El Nino, sending with our other El Nino regions. This is 3. 3 has started to kind of dip a little bit. 4 has started to kind of dip, although it's climbing back up again. And then the 1 and 2, I believe, is also on a very rapid decline once more, getting closer to that neutral point. In fact, I would argue this is already a neutral warm. If you look at the 7-day change, out there over the Pacific, you can start to see more cooler anomalies than warm anomalies. And I was taking a look at this earlier, as a matter of fact. This is very interesting. If you click on this and look at the temps overall in the Eastern Pacific, they're really not very hot anymore. Like they are, but they're not. And if you look, the Atlantic is far more impressive, even out there in the western tropical Atlantic that's a little bit further to the south than where we would typically favor seeing tropical waves come off. But we're actually almost neck and neck with the East Central Pacific in terms of how hot our Caribbean and our tropical Atlantic is. Still have some very warm waters off the Mexico and Central America coastline. So again, El Nino is still up there. It's still out there. It hasn't died. It's not starting to definitively die just yet. We still have a little bit longer to go. El Nino looks, Samasta Pasta, I see you there. It looks like climatology predictions could have El Nino really starting to tone down big time to where we see atmospheric effects from it by about April, May. So right about the time we roll into hurricane season, ironically, is when we'll start to see that El Nino really crash and burn. Some of the latest projections do have it holding on to a little bit of life as we get into spring. And then by the time we're approaching summer, and especially June 1st, that's when we're starting to really downward descend those El Nino indexes in the Pacific. So we'll see. I think we'll honestly see it really start to cave in, and we'll lose a lot of that upper level wind shear by the time we get to May, is what I'm thinking. April, we'll start to get a little bit of that lesser influence, and then by May, and then definitely into June, we're going to start to close up shop El Nino and go more neutral, which means open season thereafter in the hurricane or in the tropics, because then we won't have to worry about, well, they won't have to, metaphorically speaking, they're not living beings, obviously, but they won't have to worry about running into all that wind shear through the Gulf and through the Caribbean and through the Western Atlantic. So yeah, that was my little brief spiel about the tropics. But El Nino is not going to be sticking around for very much longer. And then last but not least, I'll go ahead and finalize the stream by looking at our long-range GFS, because it's always fun to see exactly what happens with the GFS, especially once we get into the twilight zone after the 250, 300-hour mark. So you can see that the GFS, believe it or not, is the less bullish of our models. It gives this system here a fighting chance of becoming something big, another potential major cyclone. Some folks are using the terminology bomb cyclone. It is going to rapidly intensify, but it doesn't seem like it's going to reach bomb cyclone status just because we're going to see it rapidly backbuild in intensity. It looks like it drops down to a 973, which is strong. Don't get me wrong. Bars. I'm just playing. It is strong. Please don't get that misconstrued. I'm not going to rhyme this time. But it's not going to fully bomb out. It's going to try to, and you could argue that it is bombing out if we go from 996 to 991 down to 982. Right about there is some good bombogenesis, if you will. Good old rapid intensification for my folks out there who love to mention it in the tropical environment. But then after that, if you guys look, it's mainly just cold air upon cold air upon cold air. We really don't get much, at least in terms of low pressures. According to the GFS, we do have this area here that's still influenced by our El Nino jet, so that's why you see all that return flow trying to surge to the north. You see that? We get like a little bit of a overrunning setup over the Gulf of Mexico, so if anything, the weather could possibly be annoying for us in the southeast. After this next system blows through, we're just going to have rain showers. There you go right there. Rain showers, more rain showers. And then, yeah, look at that. Even that doesn't really get a fighting chance of getting up going into something big. It just turns into another annoying rain shower storm. So we could be looking at a break here very soon. The Euro and the Canadian model definitely think differently. The Canadian model, even if I switch on over to that, there's our first system coming through, very established warm sector. That's the next big one. After that, we get another very robust storm system. According to the Canadian model, this one does seem like it could be fairly aggressive in terms of its rainfall totals. Might get some good lightning out of it. Not too sure, at least based on this structure of it, we could see anything moderate to severe. But then shortly thereafter that, the Canadian model does think we'll get another northern frontal system supported by our Arctic jet. Or no, actually, that's our polar front jet, excuse me. That's cyclogenesis occurring right along where our polar front jet would be, according to where the 528 thickness line is, the 520 thickness line. That's definitely bona fide polar system right here, bringing in a lot of good snowfall for the Great Lakes and the Midwest. And then that's as far as we can go. But GFS is the only one that thinks that we're only going to have this one storm that we have to watch out for. And then after that, might be it. Might just be some annoying weather for a little while. We'll have to see what shakes out. The Euro and the Canadian model think a little differently. The GFS is thinking on the weaker side, which is weird. Like I told you guys, I do think GFS does a little bit better during the winter and the fall because, it's not dealing with tropical cyclones. I did actually, PM. I mentioned that earlier. These last couple of storm systems, even though people were saying major Arctic plunge, it hasn't been Arctic yet, but now with these next few lows, we're definitely going to have some Arctic air. We were talking thickness lines, and even if you look at this on the GFS, this is 0Z on Monday, January 15th, so this is next Monday, or technically Sunday night. Very, very definitive. That is a definitive front range cold plunge. If you guys look at the way the isobars are really just caved in against the lee side of the Rockies, you could kind of draw where the higher mountains are. You can see all that really cold air literally flowing down the side like a lava flow against the side of a volcano. That is definitely Arctic air. When you see those isobars really stuck together like that and that cold air is not going anywhere, that's when you know it's a very, very shallow but dense cold plunge. And that there, ladies and gentlemen, is your Arctic air. That's its first surge into the greater lower 48. These last few systems, if you've heard anybody, anyone at all, any of you guys out there who mentioned you watch other channels, follow other sources, and you heard them say, Arctic is here. Nope. Not here yet, and I can promise you with everything I got, every moral fiber on my body, everywhere for that matter, I can put money on the table, that was not Arctic air just yet. Not yet. We're almost there. We're right on the threshold. It's coming. It's kind of battening down the hatches, or I should say preparing its forces right up along the Canadian coast, right along the Canadian border. If you guys look at this setup right here, this is where we sit as of this evening. You can see our 510 line is right up in through here. So there's your Arctic air just kicking it right up to the north of our U.S.-Canadian border. As that next low pressure system comes down, this little weak clipper system that dives south is going to help to antagonize it a little bit, kind of be the, the initial catalyst to priming it to come south of the border. Sounded a little bad. Come south of the Canadian border. Then this guy coming in on the west coast and moving through the four corners is going to grab hold of what that weak low pressure did and really pull it down. And there you go. Now we have our first plunge of Arctic air right in through here. Here's your 510 thickness line. Arctic air is coming down into the United States. And for those of you who may still be here watching who are wondering, why do you keep talking thickness? Because the thickness was one of the biggest things that they taught us in Air Force weather to use as a rule of thumb for forecasting your synoptic scale environment. We used to do a lot of synoptic analysis, which means big picture analysis like this. And I'll show you what I mean by that. So let's say this static image right here is our blank weather chart, and I'm working the synoptic desk tonight at Air Force Weather. What we would do here is we'd use different tools to draw all of our major features. I'm actually going to have fun doing this because this is one of my favorite positions to work when I was in the military, or at least when I was in the Air Force. Now I'm back in the Navy. Here's a low pressure here. Here's a low pressure here. Let me go ahead and get my blue ink. Here's a high. Here's a high. I used to like doing this first. I would stamp all of my major pressure features and start looking at different pieces to kind of determine what's happening. This is going to be very easy to draw. These systems are fun for us in synoptic land, as we used to call it. If you look here, this is going to be a very simple system to draw. I'll get my purple marker, and I'll draw our little occluded front. There's our occlusion right here. You can see the little theta E ridge, the thickness ribbon right here, the thickness ridge. That's a really good indicator of where your occluded front is. Our warm sector, just looking at the thickness and looking at this major high pressure out here, I would draw my warm front somewhere right in through here. It's a very weird-looking warm front because we have all that dammed, that cold air dammed up against the lee of the Appalachians, and the cold air is not going to get bullied by the warm air. And then if I had to draw my cold front's very easy to find. It's right in through here. Look at let me mess that, I messed that up. Here we go. It's right in through here, looking at where our pressure troughing is, where you get a definitive line of precip. There you have it. It looks like we have a very weak postfrontal trough here, a little bit of a prefrontal trough right there, and then we have another weird inverted trough on the back side of this low that's actually dragging a little bit of extra advection across the Great Lakes, giving some westward moving lake effect up there, it looks like. And then next system here, I can kind of see why they have that secondary push of cold air, though, because it does seem like we're going to have fronts attached to this for a very brief instance, maybe a little weak cold front there, warm front here that's going to surge down towards the east-southeast. And if you track that through time, yeah, there you go. I can kind of see why they have right here on Weather Prediction Center, this guy right there, or no, excuse me, let's go forward in time again. Where is it? That guy. This guy right here. I'm kind of in agreement with that looking at the way the model sets up right here. And this is the Canadian model, but it does look like we have our main front right here. There's our occluded front, cold front going way down to the south. This is our old low dying occlusion, what is it called? Frontalysis. It's dying. And then it looks like right in through here we have yet another little weak secondary cold push moving through the pattern right there. That's why you're getting all that snowfall surging out of the Great Lakes. So I can kind of see what they're thinking. Can kind of see it. They're not entirely out to lunch. But yeah, so anyways, 510 line, somewhere around the 510 line is typically where in the upper levels you'll find your Arctic jet or your northern branch of the polar front jet where your Arctic air mass is to the north of or poleward of. The 522 line, the 528 line, the 522 line or the 520 line, give or take, is usually where your definitive polar air is. You're not modified, you're untouched, just true to the bone polar air. Then the 570 line to the 564 thickness line is a good rule of thumb to look at for finding where your tropical air is versus to the north of that where your not so tropical warmer air is. So that's why if you guys hear me mentioning during these streams, like, oh, here's our 570 line, and then here's our 520 line, and our 528, and our 540 line, the rain-snow line, there's a reason why. There's little rules of thumb that us weather folk tend to memorize to make looking at big picture charts like this very easy. So that's why, I'll argue tooth and nail. No Arctic yet. Arctic is coming, though. It will be coming. We're going to get it. We're definitely going to get it. It's just not here yet. Everyone who's been mentioning Arctic, you're not looking at your dynamics properly. And if you switch over to our upper level dynamics, you'll see that we can find where our Arctic jet is. So check this out. This is a perfect example, kind of perfect. It's not as perfect as I'd like it. But here's your polar front jet right in through here. Polar front jet. Here's our Arctic jet coming out. I mean, not a wow. There we go. And class dismissed. I'm just kidding. Here's our subtropical jet. Down here, our El Nino jet. And if you look up in through here, this guy right here, this is going to be your northern branch, your Arctic jet. And if you come down to 500 millibars, because remember, Arctic air is very, very dense. It's very cold. We're talking cold to real cold. So Arctic, you have to look lower than 300 millibars because it's going to be a very low-lying jet. Blue Waves, do any questions get answered here? Yeah, of course. I'm kind of explaining right now. That's kind of why. The Weather Channel saying 12 to 8 inches of snow near Chicago. Local stations saying chance of rain. These weathermen are all over the map looking at the same data. Oh, I hate to say it, but the Weather Channel in most recent days has definitely changed to a bit more of like an entertainment / Weather Channel. The Weather Channel, when I was growing up, was far more involved with just getting the facts out, just warning people. Now they have talk shows, they have all sorts of different like news, and I've noticed that even on their posts, a lot of other folks are commenting saying, why did this turn into like an actual just like television station? It's not an actual weather news network anymore. So that's probably why the Weather Channel is going a little fluffy with their amounts. I do think that Chicago is going to see snow, though. I don't know who's saying rain. At least with this next system, you're going to be in that snow band. I mean, it's going to, well, actually, based off what I was seeing earlier, the heaviest snowfall is going to occur right up in through here. So you might be close. You might be close to that rain-snow line. We'll have to look a little bit later. But I hope that answers your question. We can all look at the same charts, and I can tell you earlier in this chat, we were definitely talking about how we're all looking at the same charts, and we're just communicating different values, whether it be for views, for support, for subscribers, for revenue. You could look at the very same things and still come up with very different things. That's what we used to call in Air Force weather analyst interpretation. It's all down to interpretation, which is why I like the synoptic positions so much, because it's your interpretation of the atmosphere. And people will argue, but at the end of the day, it's down to your knowledge and, what it is that you see Mother Nature and the upper and lower level dynamics doing on these charts. So anyways, to finish up, before I lose viewers for kind of going into this spiel, if we go down to 500 millibars and you look, there you have it. This is lining up really well with where we just highlighted all those lines on the jet pattern. So I know this is colors, but if you look, what these colors are showing is our thickness. And if you look at the side here, our 570 line is right where it should be. 570 line is right here. Our 528 line, we find it. There's our color coding for it. Our 528 line is right in through this area here. And then here comes your Arctic jet, your Arctic blast right there. So right up against one another, it lines up really well. And if we go over to our 500 millibar winds, we're going to use the vorticity because unfortunately they don't have just a 500 millibar overlay or 500 millibar wind field on here. There's your subtropical jet. There's your polar front jet. You can see it coming into the chart here. And then look at this puppy right here, this little jet max of winds coming out of the north supporting this upper low. That is your Arctic jet. Here comes your actual Arctic air. So that wraps it up. Little quick rule of thumb for the end of the live stream before, wow, we definitely have to wrap up. I just realized we're going over time. But we'll go back to the snowfall really quick. We'll do the overall perspective of it before we close out the live stream, before I run late like I always do. I always seem to run late with you guys, even though I step in here thinking I'm going to do a short live stream. We'll go to the Kuchera snowfall this time. This ratio was actually determined and established by someone in Air Force weather long ago. This is what we're looking at for overall snow totals with the Kuchera method, and the Kuchera method, which takes into account a little bit more of your liquid to snow ratio, how much of the liquid content in the atmosphere could actually freeze and precipitate as snowfall. It's arguably a little bit better than the 10-to-1 ratio. 10-to-1 is just how much snow is going to fall based on the environmental dynamics, whereas this takes a bit more of the finer details and tries to come up with a bit more unbiased answer for your snow totals. So as you can see here, even the Kuchera is thinking right along the same page. We're going to get somewhere close to a little over a foot of snow, particularly in Michigan. Everyone else, and kind of right about where you guys were talking in the Chicago, Illinois area, you are going to be right on that rain-snow line. So your local news station might actually be on the right track. Let's go ahead and look at where our freezing line is. We'll keep this up so we can reference it. Let's go over to the Euro. We'll do our thickness chart. Again, the thickness is coming in handy. We used to laugh because back in the squadron, we used to say, get down with the thickness. For my Slipknot fans out there. Let's take a look at our 1,000 to 500 thickness with the precip on there with the next system. Oh, yeah. Actually, you might just be in the warm sector of it. Not necessarily the warm sector of it, but it looks like we're going to have a bit of it's going to be a cold occlusion, but our warm air is going to wrap up around the vortex as that occlusion is getting going, and your occluded front's going to be down to the south of it. So it'll definitely be a cold occlusion. Your coldest air is going to be back behind the purple front on the charts, but it looks like our snow line is up in through here. So a large majority of Illinois could possibly miss out on snowfall, at least based on this. We're obviously not going to know until this storm starts to form up how much warm air is wrapping up into it as the system occludes and goes more barotropic. But just so you guys can see here, here's all the possible snowy precip right there. The rest is going to be all rainfall. Where I use the purple or I use this hot pink, this is all going to be rain. There's your rain-snow mix. S for snow, R for rain. So forgive me if it seems like I'm disregarding you guys, but there's your answer right there. If you're asking for snow where you live or how much, we're going to see more than likely upwards of a foot, if not just over a foot like we did with our last system, right in through this narrow corridor here where we finally get some really good wrapping around of our moisture on the leading edge through that rain-snow line where our 0-degree line is. But then the rest of this area is going to see the usual 1 to 3, maybe 3 to 6, and that's about it. The crazier part is going to be, again, the blizzard conditions that's set up with this, because you're going to have a very intense wind field wrapping around it as this system deepens below potentially 980 millibars. I believe this model does have it, definitely deepening pretty fast. So that's what your main concern is going to be, not necessarily the snowfall. Even if you have 1 to 2 inches of snow falling at a time, those blizzard conditions and those potential whiteout conditions are what's going to be dangerous and cause the power outages and lots of snow drifts and snow piles building up against buildings and maybe higher terrain versus lower terrain, hills, things along those lines. I've never visited up there, so I don't know the topography too well, but that's basically what's going to be happening. You're going to have a really good northeasterly to northerly wind coming out of this system that's really pumping things up between 35, 40 miles an hour. Definite winter storm, blizzard conditions, warranting the warning criteria 100%. I would definitely say, David, to answer your question, David Holmes, it definitely is going to be very windy. Very, very windy with this system coming up. They do think we're in another enhanced risk for tornadic activity. We'll have to see exactly what they pop out on their charts tomorrow morning. Some dynamics would suggest we're in the ballpark for seeing some tornadoes. Some might not so much, some not so much. It does seem like we're going to have a lot more dry air out there, so it might not be as tornadic. Definitely going to be rainy, definitely going to be windy, though, because that dry air is going to help build what's called our D-cape values. And what D-cape is in terms of cape is actually downward. It's kind of what the name implies, D-cape, downward cape, downward convective available potential energy. So with those updrafts going up, the more dry air they can entrain inside the updraft, the more dense of an updraft core you're going to have. And when that thing collapses, all that mass like this is going to be slammed down towards the ground. And that's what gives you those straight line winds and those down rush winds with these storms that could potentially cause damage, increase up to 30, 40, 50 miles an hour. But we're going to have to see. Looking at that 700 to 300 millibar relative humidity, it does seem like we're going to be very dry. So I don't think we're going to have as much mixing, that turbulent mixing, to provide us with those stray supercell storms, which I think How Close Are We and PM both have been chiming in on that. We're not going to see the discrete supercells that we did just see earlier with this last system. So to tell you the truth, it's kind of a toss-up with these winter systems. We used to draw off of the GFS when I was a synoptic analyst in the military. And the GFS, the half GFS resolution, did pretty good. It did pretty well. It verified really well with these baroclinic systems with these actual winter storms. GFS, on the other hand, during tropical season, it did terrible during most of the hurricane season. And that's the funny thing, too, to go back to what I was mentioning earlier when I was ranting about certain sources. Some sources will say that the GFS did phenomenal all hurricane season, and I would definitely heavily argue that. Wonderful example I love to use is Hurricane Tammy. Hurricane Tammy did terrible with it. And just to give you guys a bit of a backstory, so that way folks who haven't watched the channel or who are brand new to it, this is exactly why I stayed far away. I didn't even use the GFS in a lot of my videos. Everybody else was using the GFS because, the GFS has it strengthening. The GFS has it strengthening. We got to watch out. Of course, they were hyping, but the GFS during Tropical Storm Tammy into Hurricane Tammy was doing this with every model run. Every model run. Until finally it was right up on top of the Lesser Antilles, and it said, oh yeah, it's going to go through there and then go up and out at the last second. So for folks out there who are utilizing the GFS for that system, you probably busted your forecast every single day. Believe it or not, I actually do enjoy using the Canadian model. The Canadian model has earned my trust, and the Euro model for track has earned my trust. Euro seems to struggle big time with intensity. The Euro struggles enormously with intensity. It's been under forecasting intensity quite a bit, even with Hurricane Idalia, the one major hurricane that hit Florida this year. Very terrible in its intensity forecast. The entire duration of the storm, even after it had formed up, was keeping it somewhere in the 990 to 980 millibar threshold, and that system went all the way down into the 960s. And that's a big difference. Track is one thing, but if you can't nail down intensity either, that's a very dangerous situation. We all know what storm I'm talking about when I say that intensity forecasts can mean the world for a major populated city. Amanda, thank you very much. I appreciate that. You can't win over someone who is deliberately obstinate. Just speak to those of us who have the understanding. I live near PCB in Houston County, Alabama. I believe the reports. I've actually had a number of people on my TikTok earlier today because, once again, I praise God for this. That information is going out, and it's really populating across the TikTok channel, the TikTok page. We're already almost upwards of 80,000 views talking about this next severe weather event that we need to start watching for and prepping for. And it's very nice to see that I'm kind of following through with my plan. My plan is, while YouTube is technically in the slow season until a lot of my tropical viewers start coming back during hurricane season, I'm trying to bolster my Instagram, my TikTok, and other social media communities so I can eventually just merge everything. Everybody will be synonymous with one another. We've had a few wonderful people coming from TikTok, like Samasta Pasta from TikTok, some wonderful viewers from there who've been chiming in and talking on my posts and interacting there. We've had a lot of wonderful people here on YouTube now interacting with them, which is great. And that's kind of what I want. It's not all about, for me, guys, it's not all about the views or anything. It's not all about the subscribers. And you guys who have been with me since Idalia, when I first started this channel, you guys know I'm not really afraid to lose subscribers, lose viewers. I'm just trying to get all the information out to you guys and keep people safe and try to be as realistic with my information as possible. As realistic. That's the big thing. That's what saves you guys the hassle of worrying and stressing about these bad weather events. I want to be as realistic and as accurate to the best of my ability. And I know that's the trademark slogan for every meteorologist out there. Your accurate weather reports with so-and-so at 12 p.m. tonight, blah, blah, blah. What I mean by that is I'm using as much of my Air Force knowledge and how much of the education I've garnered while getting through my degree, getting closer to my atmospheric science degree, and now what I'm going to learn with the Navy, which I'm actually really excited about. Side note, my recruiter, after swearing in today, told me that there's sea courses that I can take that I can volunteer for out in Biloxi, Mississippi, which we have our A school in the Navy, which is just your general instruction of weather. I've already went through that, and as a matter of fact, I'll show you guys. I've been looking at all my old stuff. Just so you guys know how much I obsess over all this weather material. When I say how much I care about this channel and I care about you guys, this here, all this stuff here is actually legit. All of my training information from Air Force Weather. This is Weather Forecaster Apprentice. This is Mesoscale, Microscale Forecast Lab. Right here, what else do we have? Look at these big old packets. All these big old packets. This is Special Operations Weather, Meteorological Reports, and Chart Analysis. I've been looking over all this stuff. Got this big old binder here. This is what we learn during the beginning of our weather career. That's just the beginning. That's to learn weather and do your job. And then you just continue learning throughout the way. And I'm very excited that the first thing my recruiter told me today was, since you've already gone through your A school and you've learned weather, you've done weather, you have lots of experience, you can start volunteering to do special duties and get into like the specific courses. And the two things I told her already I want to do is our tropical and our hurricane forecasting course, and I want to do our radar analysis and our radar interrogation course. Only a couple week courses. I'll be out in Biloxi, Mississippi doing that specialized training, and I'm super excited to do it. So we'll see. Fingers crossed. Hopefully before the year is over with, I can get into those classes, especially the tropical course, before hurricane season hits, and we could get even more information for the channel. So that's how much I obsess over this stuff with you guys. I already know a lot of this stuff, but what I'm doing is I'm going back through all the finite details, all the very fine details to reestablish all the basic principles and rules of thumb for meteorology. And as a matter of fact, let me see if I can find something that supports what I was just telling you guys a little bit ago, and then we'll end the live stream. This is our synoptic analysis forecast here. Oh, as a matter of fact, here you go. Look at that. Chapter 2, Forecasting Tropical Elements. This is tropical stuff, though. Let me see if I can find our thickness values and whatnot. Let's see. Is it going to pop up in here? No, I don't think it's going to. But see, they have all the basic information in here as well. Analysis requirements, continuity, macro scale features, synoptic scale features, initialize and verify your models to make sure that they're doing okay. Here you go. It might be in here. Synoptic scale forecast techniques, just so you can actually see it in black and white to know that I'm not making this up when I talk about how other people are wrong and I'm right about the whole Arctic stuff and whatnot. Let's see here. Where's our jet streams and whatnot? Let's see. And I do apologize. I'm kind of dragging the live stream on, trying to show you guys. Look, they even have trend analysis in here. They have everything, and that's why I've been touching up on all this stuff as much as I can. See, I don't think I'm going to find it. There's just so much stuff in here. I don't think I'm going to find it. Here's a shared energy regions that we've been talking about as well. Yeah, no, never mind. I'm not going to go ahead and waste everyone's time. But yeah. But anyways, that's all she wrote. We'll go ahead and start ending the live stream now. We are way over time, and I got to start getting ready for bed because we got to do it all over again tomorrow. And yeah, I do appreciate everyone joining. Thank you for those of you who stuck around for my little educational spiel. Thank you for those of you who shot the shiz with the Tropicals talk for just a little while. We'll see what we have in store for us. It looks like models are a little iffy on how much severe weather coverage we can get. In fact, I know how close are. We mentioned it earlier, and I didn't ignore you, dude. Just was kind of wrapped up in talking about everything else, but you're right. The 0Z model data from the HRRR is in. Let's first of all take a look at our supercell parameters for this upcoming event. This is, oh yeah, actually look at that. Very interesting. They have this area here highlighted for enhanced maybe for convective winds, but it looks like our supercell parameters are off the hook in Arkansas, Louisiana, and Mississippi. Let's see what our SIG-Torn parameters look like. SIG-Torn parameters are probably going to look much of the same at 0Z. Let's see. Yeah, look at those SIG-Torn parameters. Not as impressive as we saw last time. Not as impressive, especially the further east you go. But definitely right in through here. We'll have to see what happens when we wake up tomorrow. I feel like we're definitely going to see a change. We're going to see a change here based on what I'm seeing. They might shift a little bit of this emphasis a bit further to the west. We'll have to see what happens when we wake up in the morning. We'll go and check SPC right now, see if maybe there's something out there. No, not yet. They have a slight risk with a 5%. We'll see. Definitely looks kind of sporty out there in Arkansas, Louisiana, and it looks like Texas even. Yeah, East Texas. Yeah, Texas once again. Let's switch the AOI just a little bit, and then I promise, guys, I'm sorry, we'll end the live stream. I just keep getting sidetracked by the weather stuff. That's a little too short range. Yeah, Texas once again could possibly be seeing some tornadic activity. We can't rule it out. It isn't the most impressive, not as impressive as some of the values you saw with our last setup. Cape is not too shabby, but not too great either. It looks like there is quite a bit of Cape into eastern Texas, eastern Oklahoma, and Arkansas, and then it just kind of dwindles from there. But enough instability down in the low levels to see some stuff. What else can we look at? What else? What does our 850 millibar wind? What does our low-level jet component look like? Low-level jet definitely gets going. So I don't know. We'll have to see. We'll have to see exactly what shakes out over the next 12 hours. I think tomorrow morning we'll get a better idea. Once we have our day 3 into day 2, we can get a more categorical as opposed to a probabilistic outlook on SPC. And then we'll have 24 hours to prep for what happens down here in the Deep South again for like our 10th Pete. Gigi, the chosen new subscriber, definitely will be back. Well, thank you very much for that. It makes me feel good. ATL FL Girl, I don't think it will be as bad as Tuesday, though, right? Yeah, no, I don't know about that just yet. Blue Waves, just discovered your channel today. Good stuff. Thank you very much. I'll give you a thumbs up right back at you. I do appreciate the kind words. Twilight Firefly 100, signing off for the night. Have a good one, everyone. Thanks, David. You're very welcome. Thank you so much for joining. I do apologize for running over the stream, guys. Typically, we like to keep it to about 45 minutes to an hour, but there was a lot of stuff to discuss tonight, ironically, even though I'm definitely feeling exhausted once again. But you know what? It's all in good fun. We always have a good time in here. And I think it's nice to say that we can end the stream on a high note, on a positive note with everybody, which is good. That's always good stuff, very wholesome. Hopefully not April. That'd be really bad. But we have a lot of shear, remember, so when there's low caps, it'll still pose a high risk. Yeah, I do believe that exactly. That's what I'm thinking. That's why I'm saying they don't look that impressive, but they're enough. They're definitely enough. And with that high shear, I think what's really limiting us is probably the moisture. We do have a relative humidity with the HRRR. Let's see what HRRR is thinking in terms of, no, actually, we get a lot. Oh, there it is. Looks like, oh, actually, yeah, we have a lot of moisture out there. Relative humidity is pretty good. What does our dew point look like on this? 2-meter dew point. Dew points look, I mean, they're not as high, but they're definitely there. So I don't know. We'll definitely have to see what happens tomorrow morning. EF3 rating. No, I didn't. Where did you get that from, Ethan? Where's the EF3 rating? Samasta Pasta, have a good evening. So happy to learn some. Very thank you, or a big thank you to you for taking away not only something from the live stream, but also enjoying yourself in the chat. Thank you very much once again for joining. You'll definitely see us again tomorrow, not only on the YouTube, but on the talk as always. Maybe tornadoes in Tupelo. Yeah, you never know. I think this area here needs to be a little further investigated right in through here. This here SPC needs to maybe raise their expectations just a little bit. I think this might be just a little backwards versus day 3. Day 3, this might need to be switched up a little bit. I think we might want to, once again, bump it back to the west just a hair. I'm seeing less parameters here than I am here, so this is a little lopsided. Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania with this storm, but Jeremy wow, excuse me, might not see too much. You guys are going to be on the warm side of this thing. Most of the snowfall is going to fall right in through here. You might see a little bit, a very light dusting, but Pennsylvania, not as much with this system. It'll be the one thereafter and a very weak Clipper-style system that comes out of the northeast or the northwest that could possibly bring up your snow chances for Pennsylvania. So not this one, the following one. This bad boy here is going to probably be another more so rain event for you, Jeremy, up there in Pittsburgh. But yeah, guys, all right, forgive me. If you have any additional questions or comments, please leave them in the comments section down below or just drop me a line on my TikTok, Instagram, or my Twitter, X. I always respond back to everybody. I try to do it as fast as I can, but sometimes life gets the best of me and life gets a hold of me, as we saw today and during the storm chase. And sometimes I'm just away from, the desk a little bit or away from the phone sometimes. So bear with me, but I'll definitely get back to you regardless as fast as I possibly can. But it's been a wonderful evening with you guys. Thank you very much for tuning in. We'll see you again very soon. We have potentially not only next wave, but 2 more waves after this that we have to monitor and just kind of watch and see what our systems do in terms of adjustments. And yeah, we'll go from there. We'll see exactly what happens. Because I definitely don't like this Sig Severe. Regardless, seeing Sig Severe on the charts again, it's worth interrogating and it's worth talking about. And that's exactly why I'm working feverishly over here, no matter how tired I get, how sleepy I get. I'll get plenty of rest. Like they say in Die Another Day, you'll get plenty of rest when you're dead. I'm just kidding. Let's not get morbid on everybody. But anyways, you know what I mean. Thank you very much for being such a wonderful crowd, everybody. You guys are all genuinely amazing. It's been a pleasure learning and growing with you guys. Can't wait to do some more live streaming on the road. We'll see exactly what happens in the future with our storm chasing and exactly how much more we can continue to improve. And just continue to ascend and grow as we go through 2024 together, because I do want this channel to grow. There's one reason I want it to grow, and it's not for the subscriber base, for me to gloat, feel cool and all that. I mean, I do feel good knowing all of you guys. It's fun to say I know these people and one day we can cross paths, but it's more so because we got to start spreading the word about hurricane season. I do think this hurricane season we're going to have to watch for very closely. And I would love for this channel to continue to try to grow as much as we can before June rolls in. I agree, April. Yeah, we got to tighten up a little bit. Stop being so conservative and stop being so generous at the same time, because it gets you into hot water, deep water. But that's the main reason why, guys. I would love it if you like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Please share this channel with your friends and family, anybody you know who could benefit from this information. There's definitely a lot more we got to talk about as we go through the rest of the year. The year is just getting started. It is only January 10th, although I can't believe the holidays have been over for about 10 days now. Time is flying at the same time, and I want to get as much of the good information out there as possible alongside the other reliable sources that we have in the weather community to kind of shun the people who are really, really dramatizing what's happening not only now, but can only imagine what's going to happen down the road in hurricane season. Cat 5s for everybody. We're going to have more of those Cat 6 videos like on TikTok that one time. So yeah, that's the main reason I encourage you guys to share the channel and please spread the word, is just so we can get information out there to more people. And I truly, truly, God as my witness, mean that. There's nothing else involved with this channel outside of me getting the chance to not only meet you guys and just continue to refine my broadcast meteorology skills for the day I finally step in front of the camera on a news network after getting my degree. Those are the 2 main reasons: to get the good info out and to just continue to better myself. That's it. That's why I love this channel so much. Memphis, Tennessee? I don't know. I'll have to look at that. We'll get back to you on that. Please drop that in the comments, Michael, please, and I'll take a look for you. Most recently, I've been seeing just mainly a lot of rainfall. For this next big event, just to give you an idea, it looks like a lot of our snow and our heaviest accumulation is going to be near the Wisconsin and especially the Michigan Peninsula, with a good dusting across much of the Midwest, getting into the northern plains like Nebraska, parts of Oklahoma and the central plains, maybe Missouri, but I don't know about Tennessee just yet. Thereafter, we could definitely get some snow. I do see some systems coming in not only from the Canadian border headed southeast, but there's also some additional cold air plunges that are coming across the plains that could maybe give you a little bit more snow after we get through this weekend. And, oh, hey, look at that. Did it just update? I didn't press anything. What just happened? Nope, never mind. It didn't update. Sorry, I don't know what happened to my SPC. But Please, Michael, drop me a comment in the comment section below. Same thing with you, Sandy, for North Carolina. North Carolina is definitely going to be a rain event. It looks like after this next storm system, maybe a very subtle amount of snow in the extreme western extent of North Carolina. But even then, we just don't have anything moving far enough to the east to give us really good snowfall. Let me bring my pen back up one more time, and then I really got to get off. I definitely got to get off because it's getting late, and I got to wake up around 4:30 again tomorrow, 5 o'clock. But if we can get these systems to stop doing this and get them to start doing this, then we'll get more snow further to the east. And it does look like a couple of our later systems to the middle to latter parts of January do want to push a bit more to the east, but we'll have to see. We'll definitely have to see. Right now, I would say for the next 7 to 10 days, Sandy, it's an easy, more so rain forecast for you guys. And then, Michael, drop down in the comments section below so I can do a little bit of interrogating for down near the Memphis and the whole Tennessee area for that matter. Don't forget, I'm just east of Albany. Oh, yeah, no, I remember. I definitely remember, and I'll get back to everybody. And we'll see you on TikTok as well. I always see you on there chatting away in my comments section, which is very nice of you. So, yeah, guys, there you have it. Hey, I really apothecary in-depth discussion. I'm assuming appreciate, Amanda. That's probably a typo. Apothecary in-depth discussion. Congratulations on your swearing in. Thank you very much for that. A big thank you. One of these days, I got to make a video kind of unveiling that I am somewhat the real deal. I don't have a lot of experience. I have about 10 years worth of experience, which is very little when it comes to really interpreting the weather, in my opinion. But just want to show you guys that I am the real deal. I'm not just here, jazzing away at my desk like, oh, what's up, guys? Like it's, I've done the thing before, and we're going to continue to do it until I die. I live and die by weather, so... But thank you all for the kind words. Thank you very much for being a wonderful audience, as always. And until next time, we'll see you again very soon. Follow me on the talk. Follow me on the Instagram. Follow me everywhere you can, guys, and I'll always keep in touch as best as I can. But we'll talk to you very soon. This is Weather Center Nazario, signing out.